Hello and welcome to another episode of Ewell Acres. Today we're talking about why you should grow food in your own garden to help combat rising food prices and gas prices in dealing with these high inflation times that are going on in these modern days. Let's get started. As a quick side note, if you like what we're doing, if you're gaining value out of these videos, please don't forget to subscribe. Click on that bell for notifications. Not only will you be able to help spread this knowledge and education with others, but we'll also be able to continue to learn with each other. So we've got rising gas prices, we've got rising food prices with rampant inflation increasing at 5-10%, and people are finding it harder and harder to be able to stretch their hard-earned money to be able to just afford the food they get on a daily basis. A really great example of this in history of what it looks like, even just from our own history, is the Great Depression of the early 1930s. An even more extreme case is what happened to Germany during the exact same time when you had a loaf of bread causing thousands upon thousands of Deutschmarks, where you literally had 1,000% inflation from a week-over-week basis, to where it cost over a month's supply of labor or income per family just to even afford a loaf of bread. This can have massive, devastating effects across our entire community. And so that's why today I want to encourage you to learn how to grow food in your own garden. Learn how to combat those rising prices of inflation so that way you can be better secure out of your own garden. And there are a multitude of reasons why. Rising prices is not the only one. There are many others. Just as a quick side note, a little bit about my history. While growing up, I had the great pleasure and advantage of being able to move all over the United States on a very regular basis. Sometimes we moved every year to 18 months. Sometimes we were blessed to live in an area for a couple of years. But because of that, I was able to live across the United States from the West Coast to the East Coast in many geographic locations. And a part of that throughout my entire life, before I was able to settle down and become a farmer where I am now, I was able to experience every major national disaster just about that this world has to offer. What do I mean by that? I mean, I've experienced droughts, I've experienced blizzards, I've been able to experience flash floods, flooding, I've been able to experience earthquakes, tornadoes, hurricanes, even the more major ones. And some people don't consider a drought or a blizzard to be part of a natural disaster, but that is just as big of a concern as a tornado or a hurricane is. The only difference is their destructive impact may not be immediate. It could potentially be much longer lasting. That's going to be a slow, long damage rather than a hurricane or tornado or an earthquake where it's a fast, hard force, impactful damage. Either way, whatever type of damage you deal with, it could even be as simple as personal economic loss. So you could lose your job. You could have a death in the family. Heaven forbid that happens. There are many different things that can throw a chink in our armor in this day and age today that can make living life on a daily basis a little bit harder. One way that you can help to mitigate that is by growing food in your own garden. There have been many times, in particular against hurricanes, earthquakes, in which I've seen where we have news reports ahead of time where technology has allowed us to say, hey, we've got a hurricane coming in 3 days, get out. Well, if you ever noticed this, always on the news reports, I've personally experienced this in my own life where they say, hey, a hurricane is coming, get out. Well, you decide, okay, I'm doing pretty good. I'm going to go to the grocery store and pick up just a few staples. Well, you go down the bread aisle, you go down the soup aisle, and literally all of the shelves are empty. Well, why can't we just get more? Well, because everything in particular in the U.S. travels on trucks. You need to have a transportation to take them from where they are produced to where they are sold on a regular basis, predominantly your grocery stores or other economic centers that sell these products. And they can only handle so much at one time. Now, there's been a colloquial said many times that said, our grocery stores, our societies are only 3 days away from a breakdown. Now, what do they mean when they always say that? What they mean is in general terms, on a daily basis, you have some sort of a natural disaster. You have some other major event that happens, and people will go and purchase a bunch of food to help mainstay themselves for that period of time. On average, a grocery store or other unit is going to only have 3 days worth of supplies on hand, because we rely on regular shipments of products to these grocery stores. Oftentimes, your major big box stores are going to get 2-3 semi-trucks loads of products every single day if they're the larger stores. And if you don't properly take the time to plan ahead of time, you could be left up a creek without a paddle very quickly, because the grocery stores are going to be empty. Now, once again, I don't say this as a gloom and doom, the world is ending, because overall, I'm a very optimistic person. However, having lived through multiple hurricanes in the southeast United States of southern Louisiana, having lived through multiple earthquakes, having lived through multiple tornadoes in the high central plains of Kansas, I understand that even though I am optimistic, reality can hit you hard in the face. And if you are not properly prepared, if you're not properly looking ahead for the future, then you could put yourself in a potentially dramatic situation. Now, the number one thing that is always going to be a major concern first is going to be food and water. Now, there are many videos out there to teach you in how to prepare. Now, me being a farmer, I naturally gravitate towards wanting to put up stores and prepare for the winter. Just like the honeybees that I keep, I absolutely love the example that they have taught me throughout my entire life. Honeybees are a very hardworking, great industrious people. What they're going to do is they spend all spring long during the year of plenty putting food aside, so that way they can have great stores of food during the lean times. In particular, the winter time. They spend all summer long building up honey stores. That way, when it's cold, it's bitter outside, food is not available, they have a nice food storage built, ready to go to see them through the lean times. I personally think we should absolutely take the example of the honeybee and follow their example. Now, in modern times, what does this translate to being a little bit more self-sufficient? In particular, when most people think of self-sufficiency, there's generally two categories that they think of. They think of, let's head for the hills, let's do some food preps, let's get some water preps, let's gear up on some guns, let's gear up on some ammo, and there's a common term, what is called prepping. And they absolutely want to gear up towards that. Well, there is another side that I personally like to focus on a little bit more for your day-to-day living, and that simply is grow a garden. What you have, supplement it in your daily diet. If you haven't started, there is always time to start. Let this current inflation issue be a wake-up call to help you out. You don't need to have a major economic disaster. You can start small and gradually work your way up. Once the time hits, when it hits, there's no way you can then go, oops, okay, now it's time to go ahead and do your preparing. You need to gradually grow it and do it ahead of time, so that way when the event actually occurs, you have the supplies on hand and squared away. Go ahead and take a look at what are the top things that I personally like to use in preparing to how you can incorporate them into your garden, and the reasons why I like using a personal garden. Oftentimes when people say, we need to prepare, we need to grow gardens, we need to have enough food on hand to feed your family. Well, that is not always the case. That is not always necessary. A lot of times, due to modern age, whether you're in New York City, whether you're in very tight confined spaces, whether you physically are renting a piece of a house or a property and you don't have the ability to even grow your own garden, there are ways that you can grow your own food to help supplement. How is it that you can achieve this even if you are very limited in space? Well, I know because I did it. Here's how you can start. Go down to your local grocery store, produce section, and most everyone in the United States has small living basil plants within that produce section. Grab one, bring it home. You can have a pot that sits on your kitchen counter. If you don't have that, you can always order a couple seeds packets and grow a basil plant or a couple other herbs in a small pot on your kitchen table or your counter. Let it grow, so that way if you're able to and you have room, you have a small balcony, you have a front porch, add a couple more pots, add a couple more herbs. That way you can use it on a daily basis to help supplement it, or grow some food that you enjoy eating. That's how you can do it on a very small space and still start to supplement your growing. If you get to the point where you are able to supplement your entire diet off of your own land, by all means, fantastic. Good on you. That is the ideal dream of a lot of people day and age that want to get into that homesteading lifestyle. But it's not always possible. That's why you can start with the pot on your kitchen table. You can start with the pot on your countertop. Number 2 on this list to help encourage you is, if you have the room, if you have the ability, grow a variety of foods. Different fruits are going to start to come in season different times of year. You have some that are going to be your very short crops, your radishes that are ready in 30 days. Then you have others that are going to be a lot more growing, like your tomatoes, that are going to take longer to actually mature. But once they come to full fruition, they're going to give you fruit all season long, and per square foot, they're going to give you the best bang for your buck, most likely. Then you have others that are going to be a perennial that will continue to produce fruit year after year, that are economically going to be much more available. Whether you're looking at berries, whether you're looking at fruit trees, there are things that can grow. So if you have the space, if you are able to expand your entire collection and the variety of fruits and vegetables that you grow, so that way you can have a continuous stream of vegetables and fruits throughout the entire year that you can use to rotate into supplement your diet. Now, number 3 on this list that you can use to help supplement is to save money. We talked a little bit earlier about inflation. You have rising prices, you have scarcity of resources. Well, one of those resources that can be scarce is money. And so by taking a smaller amount of money, you can purchase seed, you can purchase a little bit of soil on average for about the same price that you would be able to just buy that fruit or vegetable from the grocery store. However, you're going to get a tremendously larger amount of produce than you would for that exact same amount. And so long term, it's going to save you a little bit more money. Once you already have the supplies purchased, it's going to save you even more money by being able to rotate in that cost, so you just have the seeds of that cost to bring it in. Now, when you're looking at this equation, there is another factor you must consider. You must consider the old adage of time versus money. Some people have a lot more time than they have money. That's when gardening becomes a whole lot more enticing of an endeavor to take part in. Now, there are other people that have a whole lot more money than they have time, but I would still encourage you to grow a little bit. Maybe you would just not grow as much, or keep in mind what you do want to grow. Even though it's going to be much more cost effective for you to just go down to the grocery store and purchase the item just because you're very short on time, going back to our earlier discussion, you can go ahead, take some basil, grow a small plant. It doesn't take a whole lot of effort, and that will give you a side sense of accomplishment. Number 4 on this list has to deal with a subject of having the food be more nutritious. Oftentimes, when produce or fruit is going to be picked, they're going to be picked before their peak time in which they were actually ripe. And that's because they need to travel to market. They need to be able to sit on a shelf for a period of time without going bad. The longer that produce is able to sit on the vine, the longer that produce is able to sit and grow on the plant, the more nutritional value, vitamins and minerals is going to be infused into that produce you're actually going to eat. On the secondary note, it's also going to be a lot more delicious because you're having a lot more nutrients and vitamins infused in that. The flavor profile of that fruit or vegetable is going to be able to be increased and much higher value. Number 5, and why it is important to go ahead and take a look at doing your own garden, is because in modern day, there have been many people concerned about what is going on their crops. There are some people that don't care as much. They're okay with conventional means. There are other people that are very concerned. They're wanting to know what type of chemicals. They're wanting to know what type of insecticides. You want to make certain that the plant, the food that you consume, has been grown with tender love and care and has not been put anything on it that you personally or politically do not agree with. By growing your own food, you're going to have a tremendously large amount more control over what is physically put on your fruits or vegetables. The next item on our list is going to be the physical nature of it. By gardening, it's going to allow you to get outside, work your body a little bit, gain a little bit of exercise. In modern days, large portion of people tend to be inside a cubicle, tend to be a little bit more sedentary. By doing a little bit of gardening, that's going to give you a little bit of exercise. Now, I've had a lot of conversations with people that say, well, I'm physically disabled. I'm in a wheelchair. I can't bend down and do those things. Or I have this physical disability, and so I'm not able to garden. Well, that is just not true. I have many friends that are wheelchair bound. I have many friends that have other physical ailments. The great thing about gardening is you can tailor it to your own physical ailment. My friend that is wheelchair bound, they have all of their gardening at bench high. They're able to take their wheel up to it and do their gardening at the level in which they are able to reach. You can customize your gardening, what you grow, how you physically grow your produce based on your current circumstances, what you're able to do. If that means you're doing just a couple small plants of herbs on the kitchen counter, great. Go for it. If that means you're able to do a full-scale orchard on a couple acres, great. Go for it. Tailor it to your lifestyle and what you are physically able to manage. The important thing is you're physically doing something. You're getting out. You're gaining a little bit of sunshine, and by gradually doing a little bit more, that's going to increase the standards of your life. Now, the next thing on this list is by far just as important, if not more important, than the physical aspect of getting out, producing food, gaining a little bit of exercise, growing what you want, that you know where it is. That I found is just gardening is good for the soul. I don't know what it is that drew me towards the gardening lifestyle, but there's definitely a zen, if you will, about it. Dealing with Mother Nature, being more closer to the land, I find that myself, I am much more spiritually satisfied in my day-to-day life. Now, the final part in this aspect is going to be what we've already touched on a little bit, and that's grow what you want to grow. One of the great things about gardening is people want to grow a lot of different items. However, what I highly encourage and recommend is grow what you eat and eat what you grow. There is no point in trying to grow a whole field of wheat. It's just an absolute waste of your time and resources that you have on hand. If you love strawberries, go grow some strawberries. If you love carrots, go grow some carrots. But make certain whatever you grow, you actually want to eat, because there's no point in growing a large stock of food if you don't like it and you're just going to throw it away. It's going to be a waste of your resources. So focus on those two aspects. Once again, I'll say it again. Grow what you want to eat and eat what you grow. So that way it'll help to supplement your daily food stores that you have. Is don't be discouraged. If you haven't started before, or if you started a little bit, today is the day. Get out there and start. Buy a small little plant. Go ahead and build yourselves a little garden if you want to. If it's the dead of winter when you're watching this video and you are physically not able to do it, you don't physically have to have plants. Start gaining knowledge so that way you can go and grow your plants. Go to your local library, rent a book, go watch some YouTube videos like this one that you are now. Gain knowledge so that way when the time comes that you can start growing, the season will be there. There is a season and time for everything. There is a time for learning and growing. Take that knowledge, learn as much as you can, so that way we can spread this knowledge and education together. Learn and grow as much as possible. If you are in a current natural disaster now, if you are in a time in which rising gas and food prices towards inflation is shocking you into actually starting now, there is no better time than now. If you haven't done it previously, then no worries. Today is a great day to start. If you started a little bit and you want to increase it, awesome, go for it. There is no better time than now to start gardening, to start supplementing that, so that way you can not only increase your physicality a little bit, you can increase the wellness of your soul and just pure enjoyment in being able to be a little bit closer to your own food sources. If you're gaining value out of these videos, if you like what we're talking about, once again, don't forget to subscribe, click on that bell for notifications. Not only does it help to spread this knowledge around, but it helps us so that way we can continue to learn with each other and help to spread this education around. Once again, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next time.